Let's go! LSU, Bama, the largest point spread for a defending national champion. Does LSU have a shot at covering? Or can LSU actually shock the entire college football world and win in this wacky year? We're going to discuss all of that. Don't forget to subscribe and don't miss our live stream after the game. LSU better not come out and just get blown out because the GOAT will be in the building. Joey B. and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jalen Mills, who, by the way, was a 4-year starter alongside Andrew Whitworth, who is also a 4-year starter. Let's actually start with the defense because a few weeks ago when I thought this game was actually going to happen, I did a film study breakdown of DeVonta Smith versus Derek Stingley Jr., compared it to the Julio Jones versus Patrick Peterson matchups. And here's the thing, Derek Stingley Jr. was roasted by DeVonta Smith last year. And I know the first thing you're going to say is, well, there was that one play where they caught LSU looking at the sideline. And you're right about that, but it wasn't just that play. And I'm going to link the film study down below if you're interested. But simply put, Derek Stingley Jr. was great in all his other games except this one. You know, that matchup really kept Alabama in the game. DeVonta Smith single-handedly was the reason why that game was even close to begin with. Even with Terrace Marshall gone, A&M has the worst set of receivers in the SEC, probably by a wide margin. So that played into the strength of LSU's defense because they were able to play man coverage, which is what Bo Pelini likes to do. Will Derek Stingley Jr. even be on DeVonta Smith? Because Elias Ricks has arguably been the best corner in the SEC, period. Najee Harris leads the SEC and runs 10 yards or more. LSU's running backs don't have 10 runs for 10 yards or more. So a lot of that has to do with the Alabama offensive line. They are incredible. They are by far the best unit LSU has faced this year. So we'll see. I can make a strong argument that Mac Jones, because he has DeVonta Smith and Najee Harris and that great offensive line, it makes his job a lot easier. But he himself is actually just a really good quarterback. Now let's look offensively for LSU. There is one clear-cut decision to make at quarterback. Start TJ Finley. And it's not so much because of TJ Finley's capabilities. It has more to do with Max Johnson. I don't want his first start in the SEC to be against Alabama. Not going to lie, the LSU offensive line is horrible. I mean, what they did against Texas A&M was an abomination of the position. It is a disgrace to all the great offensive linemen that have come through that building. Hopefully Ed Orgeron and James Craig gets Andrew Whitworth, who will be at the game, to give them a pep talk because they desperately need it. And if this group struggles, I would like to see LSU play a few more offensive linemen. There's no reason to stick with this group. And if you want to watch the film study where I specifically broke down examples of not only the LSU offensive line getting manhandled, but them just blatantly missing assignments, you could watch it in the link below. Special teams always a big deal in this game. Cade York did miss a field goal last week, but I will never trust a Bama kicker in any game. And of course, Zach Van Rosenberg, he did get a little nicked up. I don't know why he dove to make a tackle out of bounds. He landed on the yard marker, and hopefully he's okay, but still, I like LSU on special teams in this game. And last year, Jalen Waddle had a punt return for a touchdown. You don't have to worry about that this year. So, key players. First one was the same guy I pointed out last week, Eric Gilbert. Yes, he was open, and TJ Finley missed him for what should have been a first down and or touchdown. If you want to see the play, once again, all the film study is down below. And that's what led to the missed field goal by Cade York. Now that Terrace Marshall is out of the picture, would like to see Eric Gilbert split out wide. They did it against Missouri. Missouri couldn't stop it. And LSU has not gone back to it. And it's not as if the other receivers for LSU outside of Terrace Marshall has really blown any of us away. So I want to show you a stat here. Once again, SEC StatCat, great site on Twitter. These are statistics on slant routes, okay? And I want you to see Terrace Marshall has been one of the best slant route receivers, but you go down to Eric Gilbert, and you compare him here to Kyle Pitts. Eric Gilbert has been a better receiver on slants than Kyle Pitts, but Florida continues to line Kyle Pitts up out wide. Why doesn't LSU do the same thing with Eric Gilbert? Let him play the slot receiver. Heck, let him play Terrace Marshall's position. And you go down to Kayshon Boutte, who they've targeted a lot on slants. 50% success rate for only 40 yards. So Eric Gilbert, who has 5 catches on 6 targets for 63 yards on slants, compared to Kayshon Boutte, who has 8 targets for 40 yards on slants. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you put Eric Gilbert out at receiver, especially considering against Texas A&M, he didn't block all that great. And I don't think that is entirely his fault. I think LSU is putting him in positions to block way too much, which is not the reason why he came to LSU. And I know LSU didn't have Torrey Carter, but they have him back now. So I wouldn't mind Torrey Carter or Cole Taylor playing the tight end role in this offense, putting Eric Gilbert out wide with Jared Jenkins, and then putting Kayshon Boutte or someone else at that other wide receiver. Our next player to keep an eye out for, well, let's point out two, Dylan Moses and Patrick Surtain. And I know those are both names that make your skin crawl because both of them surprisingly chose Alabama over LSU. This goes along with our recruiting videos where so many of you freak out over one recruit. Well, this shows you that LSU lost out to Alabama to 2 extraordinary defensive players that both will be selected in the first round of next year's NFL draft. And guess what? LSU was still fine. They still won a national championship without them. So it shows you, while you can't lose too many good recruits, it's okay if you lose 1 or 2 as long as you're recruiting at a national level. And the last player we normally reserve for a coach, Nick Saban versus Ed Orgeron. Nick Saban, who missed last week's game, will be available for this one. But Ed Orgeron, it has been an awful year for him. One thing I would do, when another team dominates you defensively, the way that Texas A&M dominated you, you have to start to question if Texas A&M was able to pick up on your offensive signs. A good example of this is personnel. So anytime LSU put in 5th-string running back Josh Williams, guess what? Texas A&M knew that it was going to be a quarterback design run because they're probably not going to hand the football off to a 5th-string running back, and they're probably not going to trust him in pass protection deep in their own territory. It's those little things. Then when Josh Williams came back into the game, they knew it was going to be another quarterback run, and they stuffed it again. So it's those things. It's how you actually signal in the plays. You do begin to have some questions. So you got to reevaluate everything from how the plays are signaled in, who's actually running the plays, because if not, don't you think Alabama's going to pick up on every little thing that Texas A&M did? Now, score prediction. Alabama is a 30-point favorite, and it is an over-under of 67. 30, obviously, it's gigantic. Obviously, that's a historic number. But I think LSU's going to be very motivated to play. There's nothing quite like getting shut out. So I think LSU will find some ways to generate some offense. Whether that be TJ Finley or Max Johnson, I don't know. Obviously, Terrace Marshall's the most blatantly obvious, most valuable player. He's not going to be out there for LSU this Saturday. How is LSU going to cope? Well, sometimes when you take out a star wide receiver, it opens things up a little bit more for a quarterback because TJ Finley doesn't feel forced to feed him the football, and sometimes he's tried to force the football to Terrace Marshall Jr. And can LSU's defense get their run fits correctly? Even against Texas A&M, their lone touchdown came on a long run where Damon Clark and Ali Gay were improperly fitted to stop the play. Their technique was off. Now, whose fault was it specifically? I don't know, but both of them were nowhere close to making a tackle on that play. So, those things need to get fixed. As far as score prediction is concerned, I do believe Alabama's going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a blowout as the experts think. I'm going to go final score, Alabama 38, LSU 17. Subscriber shout out. I do want to dedicate this to the Bama trolls that just have to come in on our channel and troll us. Now, here's the funny thing. So now quitting is a good thing, only at LSU. Man, y'all jumped ship because you knew what was coming. Truth of the matter, LSU suck and win right now. We're coming for our pound of flesh. Flesh. Alabama's going to eat our flesh. Let's get to one recruiting question. I just want to know why we didn't recruit Travis Etienne hard. He's from Louisiana too. You know what's interesting? His little brother is actually coming up in a few classes. I would be very shocked if his little brother didn't go to Clemson. But, you know, you could always point out any one Louisiana player, whether it be Etienne or Dak Prescott or whoever. I don't know. Each recruit story is a little bit different. I don't know the full Etienne story. But yeah, there's going to be 2, 3, and 4 stars from Louisiana that don't get an LSU offer that show up and show out at other schools. It's just going to happen, and part of that is due to being that they're motivated to show LSU that they were wrong and not going after them. Boom! It's power hour. LSU. We coming, Bama. We ain't scared. Let's go. Let's go. All right, what are we eating today? Hot Pockets? Why not? Let's pocket it.